Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. In this video we have a CAV N type injection pump from a Dorman 3LB. It's come in for inspection and repair after quite a lot of water got into the fuel system on the engine, and now the engine won't run. So we're going to strip and inspect the pump just to see what damage, if any, the water has done and anything else we can find. This injection pump is actually from an engine we reconditioned probably 18 years ago, that has spent its life since then powering a hotel narrowboat. On stripping the pump, we found a few things wrong, not directly related to water getting through it, but just from use and age. Generally, it is very dirty, so all the components are going to need thorough cleaning before we can reassemble the pump. We have also found a few problems. This is the body of the fuel lift pump, and you can see at some point somebody's over tightened one of the studs that connect the two halves of the body and have cracked the body, so that will need repairing or replacing. Also, this is the diaphragm out of the lift pump. There's actually 3 layers of material to it. 2 of these have got holes in, so only one of them was actually operating as a pump. These will need replacing. That would get done anyway, but that's a problem. And this particular injector pump has a pneumatic governor on it, and this is the diaphragm for that governor. And I don't know how well you can see, but the rubber has actually started to degrade. It's all sticky and starting to fall to pieces, so that will need replacing as well. We'll get all of this cleaned up and then come back to it once it's all ready for reassembly. So after a lot of cleaning of parts of the pump, we're now ready for reassembly. You'll see we now have a new diaphragm for the governor. We also have new diaphragms for the lift pump. The lift pump body has been replaced, so this is a replacement unit to replace the one that is damaged, which is this one here. We also have new elements and new delivery valves, so we're ready for reassembly, and we shall get on with that now. So we'll start by fitting the rack that controls the elements. So we'll just lubricate this a little bit. And this is held in place. There's a small stop that stops the rack from coming out. There we go, free to move. So the next thing we're going to do is build up each element within the pump here. These are laid out in order for the components as they came out the pump. Now, the first thing we have to do is align the rack at its mid-travel position. Now, there is a small dot on the bottom of the rack that gives you that, because you've got that travel. But if I line up the dot, that is there. And then what we're looking for is, as we assemble it, that this unit, this lump, is pointing straight up. That means that the position of the quadrant, so this bit here, is in line with the rack correctly. So we'll start with cylinder 1 and work our way along. Now each of these element bodies is held in place with a locking screw which stops the body from rotating. It's actually held down in for sealing by the delivery valve and the delivery valve nut. But at this point in time, this just stops the element body from coming back out. So that's now screwed in, and now, as much as it will move up and down a little tiny bit, it won't come out of the body anymore. As I say, these locking screws have got a pin on the end of them which locates in this slot here when the element body is in place. There we go. We'll now put the tappet in underneath. Now, The phasing on this type of pump is done via shim. So we'll put back the original ones, but we may need to change these out at a later date to get the phasing correct. And like the element body, the tappet is held in place by locking screws that have a pin on the end. So we'll get that in place. And that is cylinder 1 all back in with the tappet underneath. So we'll carry on with number 2 and number 3. So fit the upper spring carrier. Cylinder 2 in place. So the next job is cylinder 3. There we go. So with all 3 elements in and nice and easy to move, we're ready to move on to the next job. However, before we can install the camshaft, we're going to need to push all these tappets up, because at the moment they're at the fully down position. And if you try to put the camshaft through now, it will hit on the sides of them. So we're going to use these tools to lock all of these into the fully up position. There we go, there's that one in. So that's all 3 now locked in the fully up position. So what we're going to do now is loosely fit all the delivery valve assemblies and then move on to the camshaft. So the delivery valves are now dropped in. We've got new seals to go on all of them. Now for the delivery valve nuts. Now these have a washer that goes round and an O-ring, and this sits in this groove here. So with all the delivery valve holders loosely in, our next job is to fit the camshaft. It can only go in one way round because this lobe here is for the fuel lift pump. So what we'll do is we'll fit one end cover, fit the camshaft, and then fit the other end cover on the other end. Now, none of the bearings have changed because these are all in good condition, but we are using different gaskets, so we'll need to check the end float on the camshaft to make sure it's not too tight or too loose. There we go. So the next job is to put this camshaft back in, and it goes in this way round. We can put the cover on this end. New lip seals. There we go. So that's the camshaft back in place. We'll just loosely put the coupling on so that we can see whether it turns over well or whether we need to make some adjustments. And that all seems to be turning over nicely. So that's as far as we're going to go with assembling the governor, because we need to be able to measure the rack position for setting up the rest of the pump. So we'll assemble the rest of this once we've calibrated the pump. So what we're going to do is move on to reassembling the lift pump, get the lift pump on so we can fill the bottom of the pump up with oil before calibration. So that's now ready to go back onto the injector pump. So that's us all ready for calibration on the test bench. So we have the injector pump all up on the test bench. First thing we're going to do is check the phasing and get that adjusted correctly. So we'll do that first before moving on to calibration. So we've got really lucky on this pump. The phasing is all correct. We don't need to make any adjustments. So we'll move on to calibrating the pump. Now this is done to the test data sheet, which we have here. So we'll work through that and see how we get on. So that's the pump all reassembled and calibrated, ready to go back to the customer. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. See you again soon. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you for watching and see you next time.